Welcome to League Night, everybody. It is another week of disc golf, and we're going to be talking about U.S. women's disc golf. We're joined by Evan Kearns of Statmando. Great to have you, man. And we've also got our regular Josh Graham back. We're going to be talking, as I mentioned, the PDGA Major U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship. In fact, were you guys excited by it? Was it thrilling?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a major, anytime you've got a major contested, I'm looking forward to it. And, FPO has already been an exciting season, so we were primed and ready.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump right into it. What happened at the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship? It was in Madison, Wisconsin. The United States Women's Disc Golf Championship just wrapped up. That's why we're talking about it. It came into this event. There was a storyline that will Paige win another major, and her fans were definitely hoping that she would put another stamp in her major's passport. We know she has a few. Ella Hansen had a breakout performance last year at this tournament. Different location. We're going to talk about that. And this edition of the event was shaping up for so many more storylines than we could even keep track of. You know why? Because the field size. The field size was a record-breaking 318 women. They were competing for titles in their respective divisions, and a whopping 89 alone in the FPO specific division. We saw 2 courses featured, including Token Creek and Elver Park, where a nice blend of open grass, the fairways were beautiful, and demanding tree line approaches. It played the stage for this fantastic show that was put on by the best women disc golfers in the world. In fact, we've thrown a few highlights together for you. Josh, go ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah, so a 4-round event. Look, the first 3 rounds, we saw hot rounds by Salonen, Maria Oliva, Hailey King. Jumped around 4, Elver Park, which means they get another crack at that course to see how they could finish. We expected fireworks. After all, it was July 3rd, right? And we definitely had some excitement. Going into round 4, Hailey King, Salonen, Scoggins, Oliva, Mandahano, Katrina Allen, all of those bunched within 6 strokes and 18 holes to play. Look, Hailey King and Own, birdie, hole 1, a decent start for a few holes. Then everything cinched up, and you can see some of it happening on the screen. Look, by hole 6, the 3-stroke lead had entirely evaporated. With an incredible drive in hole 7, Scoggins takes the lead. Hole 8, Scoggins with a crazy tough upshot from the bush to park it. Hailey King from the same bush has an actual look, but misses, comes up short on the comeback putt. So listen, after hole 8, which I know on the screen we're on hole 5, but at hole 8, Scoggins now has a lead. Valerie, with an incredibly hot round, we'll mention again, crept into second. Yes, she was 1 hole ahead. Then Hailey in third. And this was going to be a real test for Hailey, coughing up a 3-stroke lead in the first half of the final round. And there's been questions on her mental game at various points. When things aren't going to her liking, how would she respond? We see birdies hole 9 and 10, while Scoggins bogeys and pars, and just like that, she's in the lead again. Of course, not forgetting about Valerie. Watch this. 7 straight birdies in the front 9, finishes with 2 birdies. Unbelievable. From there for Hailey, it was just about minimizing the cost of any mistakes, right? She was able to do it. Scoggins couldn't quite bridge the gap. Valerie played incredible, but again, not quite enough. Hailey King with her very first podium of the entire year and very first major. Congrats. Look how excited. Let's actually hear what Hailey
let's listen
had to say.
She's got a great post-round interview. Let's listen.
I'm not good with words. It means the world to me. Yeah.
What is it like winning here in your home state with so many people around?
It feels amazing. Just what you just said, to play one of my first AM events here and to win my first major here just means the world. Having Maria play on the card every day, almost every day, and then Owen and Evelina, we were all shooting so hot and we just kept each other pushing. So, I'm surprised Val, that was crazy. But it's just amazing to finally do it, I guess, yeah. I want to give a huge shout out to my Grandma Jane and my Grandma Claire that are watching back home, and to my siblings. I finally did it, and thank you, everyone, for the support. Shout out to Innova.
Shout out to Innova. I thought that was really, I mean, we just clipped it there at the very end, but Innova getting a significant shout out saying it wouldn't be possible. Now, we hear that regularly from athletes out there on tour, but this one had a different vibe to it. And I think we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But before we get to that, let's dig in a little bit. What does this mean for Hailey? I guess you could say her career, her legacy, winning a major's a significant deal. She's been shooting well in her career. This season came out a little bit slow. What does this mean for Hailey just in general as a disc golf competitor? Evan, what do you think?
Well, just getting your first major is so incredible. She's only one of 26 women to win an FPO major. Just that alone is a ginormous accomplishment. But Hailey is an incredibly decorated disc golfer already. She had 4 Elite Series wins last year. She has 5 in her career, including the 2020 Tour Championship. But this year, as we were saying, she had 0 podiums going into this event. She was only 50% in the top 10 during the season, whereas you compare to 2021, she had 4 wins and she was top 10 in every single event except for Waco. Her season was not what she was hoping it to be, but it got completely turned around with this event. Getting a major win immediately makes it a good season no matter who the player is, and she's right back on track.
All right, so we bring up the season a little bit, so I'm going to expand it, and I'm going to move over to Josh. Tell us your reaction, Josh, generally as a competitor in the FPO division or just as a disc golfer. What does a major victory do for you? What is it doing for her? And then expand it into this season specifically with that slow start that Evan mentioned.
Yeah, so more from a personal standpoint for her, I mean, it means a lot. Obviously, you can hear and see the emotion. I love the family shout outs, right? The grandmas and the siblings. Proving to your new sponsor what you can do. I think there's always some burden of that, right? And after a rough start, I think proving to herself that she still has what it takes. So it means a lot to her. As far as what does it mean for the season? Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're really only just a touch more than halfway through, but it totally changes her year, regardless of how it plays out. Now, granted, if she falls off in the second half of the year, that won't feel great, but getting a major changes your season. And to be clear, if you look at the PDGA page only, she's only registered for 12 events that we would consider here. Now, I think she'll pick up some more when we talk about the playoffs and championships. But if you look at it that way, her first 6 events, Evan, you kind of mentioned it, but she placed 4th, 11th, 10th, 6th, 23rd, and 25th. Kind of mediocre. But then she just wins a major. And to be honest, all she has to do is have 1 or 2 more wins. And then when you look back at the season, you easily excuse the slow start. You say new sponsor. Remember, she missed an event due to health issues and I think some travel concerns with some storms. So like in the big picture, if she just even finishes decent, the fact that she won a major totally flips it on its head, which is awesome for her.
I love the idea that you look back at this season and you say, was it successful? And you go, well, she won the major. It's definitely successful. You could forget the rest. I think that's fantastic. Great points there. So let's move into the final talk here for what does this mean for Hailey? Let's talk about what did it take? What was the keys to the success, if you will? What pushed her to this victory? I know she woke up on the final round day saying that she just believed she was going to win it. I think part of that could relate to, let's talk about it. She's in her home state. I know it's not a course that she plays often, although she has a history there back when she was an amateur. Her health was in question for the previous months and a portion of the season, but it seems like it's a non-issue right now. And then the support of her sponsors, the new sponsor, that's a big deal to her. She's talked about mental health. She's talked about physical health. What do you guys think were the biggest keys to her success, Josh?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to actually say 2 things. First of all, an obvious answer is her natural skills, but I just don't want to blow by that because she's really talented, okay? But the rest of these things that we've got on the screen for me actually come together under one bucket, and they're all individual items, but it is her mental game. And I mentioned it in my narration earlier, but for Hailey, this is my opinion, it's all about comfort and flow, right? You can kind of see it because when her flow is disrupted, you kind of see it ruffle the feathers. We've seen that before on the course about disinterested, frustrated. She's always, I would say, mostly professional, but you can just see it kind of rubbing her the wrong way. That didn't happen this weekend. And I think things like a sponsor that supports her in a way that she needs, right? Coming back, right? Because she's moved away, but coming back to her hometown, spending time with family, just plain old feeling relaxed, talking about body health. You add all those things together. To me, the eye test on the course, she just looked comfortable. And when Hailey's comfortable, her natural skill can shine. And that's how Hailey wins.
Any additional thoughts, Evan, to this idea that there was some extra things pushing her to success this weekend?
You know, I couldn't agree more with Josh that comfort and flow are the two best words to describe it. I mean, Hailey is a young athlete who's still growing and learning who she is as a person, as we all were in our young teenage to young 20 years. She just recently moved to North Carolina. She had to switch sponsorships, like a lot of changes happening that can just disrupt your mental kind of flow during rounds. And now that she gets to return to Wisconsin, maybe just get more comfort throughout the season and just get to play, as Josh said, I think that is such a huge factor and something that just really helped her kind of just ease her way into a great tournament and survived all these other fantastic players, and she was the best this weekend.
I'm still growing up. I'm 37. Some would say I'm still a baby. It depends on how you look at it, I suppose. We got fans of all different ages, and we're looking at it going, and I tell my wife all the time, you look at a person graduating college and you feel like they're a little child. It's just everybody's perspective. Hailey's doing fantastic things on her own now, and she's out there living we'll call it the good life, and it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. And pulling off a major victory is fantastic, a life achievement for sure. But there were other players there, and there's some that were really exciting, some that were notable for other reasons. And I'm going to give you an opportunity in this next segment to talk about these other players. I'm going to give you a list here: Pierce, Allen, Mandahano, Scoggins, Salone, and Tatar. Out of those names listed, I'm letting you pick two to address and say what you would like, just a small comment. And I'm going to start with Evan. What are the two names you pick here that matter for you for some reason?
I want to start out with Owen Scoggins. I mean, how incredible is it, just her journey throughout disc golf? She won Pro Masters World last year in FP 40 plus last year. Like, how incredible is that she is in that age group, but then can dominate women of all ages? Only two players before have won a major in an age-protected division, have gone on to win in the open division. She could have been the third if she was able to take it down. Unfortunately, Hailey King was the best of this weekend. Unfortunate for Owen, to be clear.
Yes, great point.
But as we know, Owen is a fantastic putter, and you know, she was 84% in C1X, but that was only good for ninth, hey, that's pretty good. But for Owen Scoggins, you got to assume she should be a little bit higher. She should maybe be top 3 in that category every single event. Maybe that's why she just lost a few strokes to the rest of the top part of the field. But she was also 43% from C2, which was good for first. And that's really where she shines. This course was somewhere where you could get to C2 fairly easily. So if you could convert those, as she did, you can keep in contention. So I think that was incredibly impressive from Owen. It's always great to see someone like her always finishing near the top of recently.
Yeah.
Go ahead, just briefly to react to, I know this has nothing to do with pure play on the course, but I think it does overflow and make a difference. You're hard pressed to find a competitor that doesn't enjoy playing with Owen, because I think she's professional. She takes the game seriously. She's obviously talented, but she can be lighthearted at the right moments. She seems to respect her card mates, and you saw she was the first one to run up and hug Hailey and kind of, shake the excitement out of her. So that's always exciting.
Absolutely. Josh, go ahead and give me your two names that you've chosen.
Well, does Evan get to give his second?
Well, he can, but we're moving along. No.
All right, I'll go quick, and it's kind of the opposite side of the spectrum as the characteristics of Owen is Evelina Salonen. We know this year that she has struggled in circle, just making the easy putts because she is so good at driving, getting from the tee to the green, but it's the struggle on the green that has limited her so far this year. She goes back to Europe, looked like she solved it, and it did look like she solved it. In round 1, she was 88% from C1X. Round 2, she was 91%. We thought maybe this was it, but in round 3 dropped off a little bit to 80%, but But in round 4, she dropped to 33% in C1X. That is not a percentage that's going to win you a major. And Salonen won a major in 2018 at Kona-Piste, but you could say that she hasn't quite been in complete contention since. I mean, she was second at 2019 Worlds, but of recently in 2022, she was 16th at Champions Cup and now 6th at US Women's. It feels like it's just out of grasp of her, but I don't doubt if the putting gets fixed that she'll be right in the mix.
Okay, so don't answer this. This is rhetorical. Is this going to hurt her in the immediacy here or help her? This experience, you could say, would help her, but the putting woes can also defeat you mentally going forward. But Josh, go ahead and give me your 2 names.
All right, so I'm going to take an obvious name off the board just because I think it's a storyline that Paige Pierce, 20 places down the leaderboard. You know, how many times in an event would you say, hey, talk about any other 2 players? You're not usually going to 21st place. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more later, but first time not being one, first or second in the last 5 years at a major, which is an incredible stat. So that really speaks to, right, her excellence. This is an exception to that rule. And anytime you've got a rule that's that good, right, an exception is just that. I don't have any concerns that there's a bigger picture here for Paige this year, but wow, that's the other comment I'm going to make.
Okay. Paige Pierce.
Yep.
Give us number 2 because that is incredible. But number 2, what do you got?
Yeah, number 2, another obvious one off the board, but I'd feel bad skipping the name, is Valerie Mandujano, who's having a really good year. But simply, I want to say this, like, talk about making a charge. And she set a goal of 12 down in the final round. Didn't hit that goal, almost executed. If she had, she probably would have won. I think Hailey King was not paying very close attention to the scores until just about the last hole. Obviously, maybe somebody would have spoke up if it was a little bit tighter. But for Valerie, I have said this numerous times on this show, she continues to gain incredible experience. And from what I see, she tends to use that experience, react to it, respond, reevaluate, and adjust. And the more she's in these situations, I expect more of that. And even though she only, quote unquote, only finished in second, I think this continues to be a great year for Valerie, and I think she's still on an upward trend, in my opinion.
Okay, I would tend to agree, and I'm going to give my 2 names quickly here is Valerie Mandujano. So I'm not going to echo everything you said. I fall right in line with that train of thinking, but what I'm going to do with my second name is put you both on the spot if you're so willing to answer the question. I'm going Kristen Tatar with my second, but here's my question to you. If Kristen's at this event, are you willing to say right now that Hailey doesn't win? Either of you.
Okay, well, that's obviously not fair, but let me tell you what I actually have written on my notes. I said, this is literally what I'm reading. It says, what if questions are very hard? And I didn't know you were going to ask this. But
You were prepared.
I also said, but I think she could have won this. Now, I know you're saying, would I have said it? Yeah, I actually think yes is the answer.
Okay, and I get that it's not fair in hindsight, but going into this, had Kristen been there, my point with picking Kristen's name was that I think it was a large hole missing. That's at the very least I can say that. Evan, what's your reaction?
She is a ginormous hole missing. She's an incredible player, and one could say maybe the best in FPO this season when she gets to play. But this course, there's just so much variability, and we saw so many women step up to the challenge. Notably, Kristen Tatar has not finished off the podium this year, and I might be crazy for saying this, but I think she had a chance to lose that streak going into this event because so many women played well. She could have found herself just like Katrina Allen in 4th place, maybe 5th, just outside of that top 3. I could have easily seen that happening, but as you guys were saying, I could also see her winning, of course, because she has been playing so well recently.
And absolutely, I want to acknowledge this, it's totally out of her control. The pandemic, as much as it seems to be waning and people seem to be going about somewhat normalcy, it is still affecting lives and travel, especially international. So we hope the best for her in her recovery there. That wraps up my topic here on pick the 2 other names that maybe didn't get the whole headline there, but I think those are some fantastic points. We're going to move it over. We have the stat Mando professional himself, Evan Kearns here. He's going to bring us some numbers. Let's move right into it. Let's run the numbers. I think you came prepared, Evan. 3 numbers. Go ahead and give us number 1 that matters. Why does number 1 matter and what is it?
All right, number one is 66 bogey-free holes in a row for ANANDA during this event. That is the best consecutive streak of bogey-free holes this season, and not just for FPO, which the previous record was 35 by Paige Pierce and Owen Scoggins, but it's the best for both divisions. Earlier this year, 59 straight bogey-free holes for Emerson Keith at Champions Cup. ANANDA with 66, as I said, that is absolutely incredible. We saw the streak unfortunately end about midway through the fourth round, but how crazy would it have been if she was able to go the whole round? Unfortunately, the most important thing might be getting the birdies and not staying bogey free in today's game, but still, what an incredible feat. 66 straight holes.
Nobody came here to listen to me and my game, but there was one round where I had 17 bogey-free holes, and the pressure on hole 18 was too much, and I bogeyed it. Can you imagine going 65 holes? And just a really cool accomplishment from her. Josh, do you have any quick reaction to that before Evan gives
Just
us number
briefly,
two?
I think she's, here I am mentioning something I'm not 100% sure of, but I think she's played well at that course before. And so I think course familiarity makes a big difference, especially when you're trying to limit big errors. But I mean, incredible. 66. Yeah, I'm believing.
Absolutely. Let Evan give us number two.
All right. This is a 21, and that being 21st place for Paige Pierce. Josh, you touched on it when we were choosing our two players, but this is the worst FPO finish of Paige Pierce's career, and the first time she's finished outside of the top 15 in FPO. And that's not to rag on Paige Pierce. She's obviously one of the most incredible players we've seen in our entire sport. And I think just almost in the opposite way shows the incredible consecutive, like, just, I mean, first or second, we were just saying that in the last 5 years, and that's her last 12 majors. She's finished first or second. So just to not be first or second shows how incredible that feat is, and is also unfortunate. But then to finish 21st, that it doesn't feel Paige Pierce like, but what I will say is she still cashed. She earned $1,000, which was also more money than she earned at a major for winning it in the past. The 2013 Copenhagen Open was a major, and she won $931 US when converted. This weekend she won 1,000, which is more than that. So it's cool to see the sport growing and the field growing.
Evan, my reactions to all that you were sharing was just like impressed, shocked. The entertainment value that you're bringing is fantastic to this numbers running. I want to say that when you hear worst FPO finish of her career, that is a shocking statistic. But I think if we were to ask the next question is, just like we did for Hailey, and I'm going to throw this to Josh, does this actually matter? Is this detrimental to her career, Josh? Is this a trend?
No way. Like, this is just a matter of stats finally catching up. Like, in other words, in my opinion, everybody's bound to have some tournament where they're off. She even commented about, like, doesn't feel like there was anything in particular. It just didn't happen. And in the big picture, no, I don't even think it puts a dent on it. In fact, right, I'm willing to kind of forget it by next weekend already. Right. Now, I mean, it's interesting, but to me, it puts more of a light on how incredible she's been. I don't feel like this is any sign of how, bad she suddenly is. It's just a bad result.
Yeah, and I don't think she's going to let this affect her as well. Obviously, it's in her mindset, but it's not going to be there for long. Evan, give us number three. What's the number you got?
All right. Number 3 is the number 5, and that is 5 previous Elite Series wins for Hailey King before winning her first major. That was the record for most Elite Series wins without a major in FPO. Of course, she won her first major, so she no longer holds that title, and it is passed off to Jessica Weiss, who has 3 Elite Series wins, although her last Elite Series win was the 2018 Ledgestone Insurance Open. But there's also been a few other women who have 2 Elite Series wins who could hold that title soon. I mean, Val Mandujano, we mentioned earlier, is having an incredible season and was so close to getting this one. Missy Gannon also has 2, and Liz Carr-Sipian.
What does it tell us, Josh? If you go 5 Elite Series wins, significant, but you don't get a major, and you've been playing long enough and you've played enough majors, but like, what does that tell you?
Well, it's funny. Everybody wants a major, which is important. We count that too. But the irony is, you know what it tells you? It tells you you're a pretty darn good disc golfer, right? Like, obviously, yes, if you ended up having a problem where you could never seal the major, that does become a storyline on your career. So it's something to watch. It is interesting. But to me, that feels right for what we know of Hailey King. She's kind of come out and played really well and hasn't just quite hit that upper mark, which is why we talked earlier about such a big deal to get the major. So, but yeah, she's good at disc golf. We don't have this question, I think, teed up, but, is this going to be her only major? I think most reasonable disc golf fans and media would say no way, right? She's got just as good a chance as anybody else out there to pile them on. And in the end, again, this will be a stat we don't even remember because we'll be counting her major wins.
Statmanda will make sure we remember this next time she places better or worse, I should say. And if that does happen, we'll know this is now her news. But that's taking away right now. We've completed the numbers. We ran the numbers. Thank you, Evan, for bringing those three. Let's go ahead and move into the final conversations, as I'll call it, into our next segment here. Final conversations relating to USWDGC. Let's start with course length. Now, we know course length plays a factor, and it seems that compared to the tour so far, that this course is averaged pretty short. Is that correct, Evan? Did you run any numbers on this?
Yeah, these two courses were the shortest of the year for Elite Series and Majors. They were 65,776 and 62,066 respectively. That, like I said, that is the shortest of the season. And it's kind of a trend we see with the U.S. women's event. Actually, in the last 5 years, outside of when it was at Winthrop in 2020 as the women's national championship, all of the layouts have been under 8,000 feet, when we generally see most tour courses, even in FPO, going above 9,000.
Does that seem to play to the fact that the PDGA themselves are in charge of officialing and providing the event's foundation, or is that just purely because it's the U.S. Women's Championship? Josh, are my words, are those both tied together? The PDGA running it and the USWDGC, is it just together? That's the way the event will be.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily one creates the other. I mean, I think that's a statement of fact, meaning the PDGA, right, has a major, they put it out for bid, right? People bid for that and they say they have what we need. And if the courses match the expectations, so sure, the PDGA has some oversight, but then the team that wins the bid can also adjust, right, the course layouts, and there is a teamwork effort. The fact that it's not part of the kind of traditional tour, I'm sure, has some impact on it as well. But look, I personally like having courses with some variety on the tour. And so having a shorter course in its own right is fine with me. But I know as we segue to our next topic, that's where I get kind of a mixed opinion.
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay.
The bids come in every year for the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship, and it is a rotating event. And it's differing from what we see as the USDGC, which is actually a permanent venue, or that's another interesting conversation. Permanent location where it repeatedly happens. Josh, you have some frustrations. Go ahead and get them off.
Well, not purely with rotating, but I want to kind of segue from the last topic. So here's the point. Okay. I am fine with a shorter course. I'm fine with a course that has a unique personality, right? Something that's different. But then when you attach it to a major which rotates, we lose that consistency, right? And that's what I have a hard time with. Because look, if you're going to rotate, then I actually want the style of the courses to be similar to the tour, which allows players to prepare for that type of event and allows fans to actually know what to expect coming into a particular event. The event itself starts to pick up, hey, we know what type of player excels here, right? If you want something unique, then I don't want it to rotate. So players can be prepared, right, and know what to expect. So it's like it's just hard for me to say create a really unique course, but you're only going to see it one time, because next year U.S. Women's is going to be entirely different, and the year after U.S. Women's is going to be entirely different again. So if you feel the need to rotate the event, which could be a reasonable thing, then I say still create some personality to the event and only give bids to locations that have kind of a consistent feel and meet maybe the tour standard. I know that's kind of a generic, all over the place opinion, but it's like, I like the course. I just get frustrated that every year you don't know what you're getting into until like right before.
Yeah. And I think you said you were all over the place. I think you communicated well in a way that actually, I think you persuaded me. I didn't have strong feelings that way, but the way you communicated that made me believe that I want to see the competition happen regularly at a reoccurring venue. Evan, do you have any reaction to that or any feelings in like that?
Well, I'd actually argue the other side. Although this is a rotating event and we see new venues every single year, as I kind of said earlier, each layout has been under 8,000 feet when it rotates. So although it does rotate, we are kind of seeing the same type of golf, which is more shorter par threes and kind of eagleable par fours. And that's something unique we see on the tour each year at this event. Although that the course changes, the style kind of stays the same.
Yeah, and I just say in closing of that topic is we're so regularly used to seeing the DGPT tour events where the courses, and we're coming out of a stretch with large courses, 9,000 feet, right? Plus, and it's like, it was such a shift for us, but it was great. I think the competition was fantastic. It did create dramatic and epic finishes. I loved seeing Valerie come down that home stretch. That wraps up our full conversation on U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship. Did we miss anything? Would you comment and let us know? Because right now, we're going to go ahead and move into the look ahead, the LWS Open at Idlewild. It is rebranded LWS as the title, presenting, not even presenting, it's the LWS Open. It is happening at the existing, Josh, this is a reoccurring course. You've been down there a few times recently for work travel. It's happening at the Idlewild course. You know the greens. They have that artificial turf, the plains overhead. In fact, they incorporated the airport, which is where the property is located. The airport leases it, I believe, out to the parks and recreation. The course is installed, and you get a fabulous foundation for a large disc golf event. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Introducing unique winners to the MPO division specifically. Evan, we talked about this beforehand. There are no repeat MPO winners. And in fact, that I don't know how many other events, we'd have to take some time to figure that out, but this event specifically, no repeat MPO winners. Is that correct, Evan?
Yeah, that is correct. And one could say that this course just creates a lot of chances with, it's very wooded and just has, you know, kind of awkward but cool greens where there's a lot of OB very close by and a lot of trees, and you can get a lot of unfortunate kicks, or you can have some intense shots that get through and land on the green. And I think it creates a lot of excitement. I mean, we saw last year how many people were fighting right towards the end. So this is one of my favorite tournaments of the year.
Generally speaking, Josh, do you like to see new winners? And is this venue something that you believe is going to keep repeating that?
Yeah, generally speaking, yes, I love to see new winners, so I want that trend to happen. I do have a soft spot for when you argue that you have the greatest of all time in a sport to continue to have them kind of cement that legacy by winning everything. I kind of like that storyline too, and I know not everybody agrees with that, but if you can't have that, then yes, I say let's, like we use the term parity, let's get a tight field, close courses, or close competition, and let's get some new winners kind of popping up. I think that is exciting, and I'm just curious, right, from a stats standpoint, Evan, does that mean we're guaranteed to get a new winner again this weekend, or is it possible that one of those previous 5 is going to pull it off?
It is absolutely possible one of those previous could pull it off. There are no guarantees.
I was just going to pose that question, but Josh did it for me. I was going to say, is anybody going to pick this year to be the repeat winner, and who would it be? I don't think it's going to be Eagle. And you know what's interesting here? Simon Lizotte, we talked about last week as being the hottest player potentially. It's up and, arguing about that. But he's showing up to Idlewild, and he's never competed here as far as my stats show. And this is going to be a new venue for him. Is this something that he can do coming out of New England, where he's resided for the past few years, playing a lot of wooded courses? I think there's a potential here to see another new winner in Simon Lizotte. But who knows? I mean, do you take the field or do you take a new winner, or however that would work, the stats there? So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would probably take a new winner. It's a power forehand kind of course. So I think there's a lot of chances out there. We saw Andrew Marweed almost take it down last year. Maybe he gets his first elite win.
Oh, we have Chris Dickerson returned to the field. I'm probably stealing some things.
Yeah, you're stealing it. We can jump ahead in just a second. Let's do it. Let's just jump ahead right here. Dickerson returns it to a robot chicken, if you will. He's back, and that's after his West Coast swing break. He's kind of been known for doing that. This isn't out of the normal. He's relaxed. I think he's played a tournament or two in there, and he's ready to go Idlewild. This course does seem to shape up for him, as do most. Is he going to take it down? What do you think? He's back on tour.
Oh, I mean,
I don't know who I'm going to.
I was going to say, is he going to take it down? I mean, of course, Chris is good enough to take it down. I don't think he will, and I don't know if I have any reason to do that except playing the odds. Like literally, there's no actual point I have saying why
top
Chris wouldn't
4,
win.
top 5 for Chris Dickerson.
For sure. I can't imagine why he wouldn't in contest for the win, but I think Simon's in there, plus any of our other great players. You know, Ricky Wysocki is still playing quite well, even though he probably hasn't had.
What about
season.
Paul Macbeth?
I know, but I don't think, which is crazy to say, that I don't know.
If I
yet.
was to pick him and
yet.
win, we have to have some type of prize for me. But I kind of am feeling Paul Macbeth at Idlewild. He's had very close, and now I'm going back in our show notes here to the close and exciting finishes. There have been very many times where Paul Macbeth has pushed it, even if he wasn't in the lead, to the last hole where you said, can he do McBeast things? So the tight and exciting finishes, this course definitely brings that. We've seen the playoff last year, as you mentioned, Kyle Klein, Andrew Marweed, in the FPO, Evan, tell us how many repeat winners in the FPO?
Well, it's the recurring trend of what we were talking about earlier, but Paige Pierce has done incredibly well at this tournament, winning 4 out of the 5. The lone other winner was Ellen Widboom in her dramatic come from behind victory to get her one and only Elite Series win. But other than that, it's been the Paige Pierce show. Coming off the 21st place finish and also breaking a streak of really good finishes at majors. Can she hold on to the streak at Idlewild, or does she unfortunately break that one again? We'll see, but it sure will be exciting.
I think even though Paige has taken it down, we have seen some exciting finishes. And in fact, we see players like Holly Finley and we see Ellen Widboom. We see these players that can stand out. Even Missy Gannon's got a little bit of a, I want to say, increased opportunity here. If she can shred the woods the way that she knows how to coming out of the Northeast, I think there's a great possibility here. But I don't know what the bounce back stat is for Paige when she shoots her worst ever placement at a tournament, but you got to believe there's some inspiration there, but who knows? All right, let's go ahead and take it here. Josh, coming up next, we just said Idlewild. How are they going to watch?
Yeah, so you're going to watch this the way you normally do, right? Disc Golf Network. You're going to get final round coverage on YouTube. Check it out. There's nothing like live disc golf. There's some great post-produced coverage as well when you want to capture all the highlights after. But it should be a good weekend. We just told you why. And, get ready for an overseas swing afterwards. I'm looking forward to it all.
That's right. And while we look forward to the Idlewild tournament here, we also have to give a shout out to all the junior competitors, about 300 of them traveling to Peoria, Illinois to compete in the Junior World Championship. And not to leave out the other 800 or so masters that are going to compete in the World Championship as well. That's fantastic. Let's be rooting for all of them. Until next week, everybody, we'll see you out there. Have a good one.